Hello everyone, this is Manjula Devi P, Assistant Professor in GFGC Kanakpura. In this session, we are discussing about strategic management of BBA 6th semester, Bangalore University. In that unit 3, which is strategic planning. In this unit, we are discussing about the topic retrenchment strategy. What is the meaning of retrenchment strategy? What are the different types of retrenchment strategy that the companies usually adopt? Why do they go for such retrenchment strategies? Is all about the subject matter of today's discussion. So, what is retrenchment? A retrenchment strategy is adopted when an organization aims at reducing its one or more business operations with the view to cut expenses and reach to a more stable financial position. So, basically in retrenchment, they are doing downsizing, where they are cutting their expenses through selling a portion of their business, or like they have taken a wrong decision earlier, so they are basically cancelling that decision and making it right, or the worst case scenario, they have to liquidate their business. So, basically retrenchment, they are downsizing it, or they are reducing the scope of their business. So, by doing a considerable reduction in the business operations. So, basically this is followed during the time of recession or economic downturn. So, what happens in the economic downturn when the aggregate demand is less, when GDP is less, when there is less demand for the goods of that particular business, and if they have already invested, if they already have excess stock in them, or if they already have reached that saturation stage where there is no growth for no scope for expansion, or there is over capitalization in that particular business, then they would like to go for this retrenchment. They want to cut down the scope of the business. If it's a conglomerate that they have different operation, and any one segment or any one section or division is having an issue, continuous losses, and then also they would like to go for closing down that particular branch, or if there is over employees, they want to downsize the employees. So, all those things happens in the retrenchment strategy. Usually it is followed at the time of economic downturn. So, let us see what are the different ways in which they do the retrenchment. Retrenchment can happen through turnaround, through divestment, or through liquidation. What is this turnaround strategy? When do they follow it? What is disinvestment or divestment? Both are one and the same. And what is liquidation? First and foremost, let us take up turnaround strategy. Turnaround strategy is a retrenchment strategy followed by an organization when it feels that the decision made earlier is wrong and needs to be undone before it damages the profitability of the company. Like, as you all know, when they make especially the capital budgeting or investment decision, of course a thorough analysis is done, but all these analyses are based on certain forecasts and certain assumptions. But later, when it actually been put for practice, it so happened that the project or the plan may not work the way it was intended to, or the way it was planned. So, then what happens? Somewhere they have to go for this, reversing the decision. Okay, they have to go for undone, or like they have to cancel out the decision what they have taken, so that they can save the other part of the business. Otherwise, this whatever the loss making or whatever the problem, it may continue or may spread to the other parts of the corporate also. So, what they do? They take this decision of whatever the wrong decision they have taken, or whatever the wrong plan which they had put for implementation, they are just cancelling that out. So in simple words, turnaround strategy is backing out or retreating from the decision wrongly made earlier and transforming from loss making company to a profit making company. We have so many live examples of turnaround strategy done by the corporate. Just to take an example of Dell computers, so you would have heard Dell laptops are quite famous. So earlier Dell had a strategy of having only direct sales. They were not available in the normal retail shops. So then they found that that strategy was not working. That decision of their personal selling was wrong. So their sales were considerably less. It didn't work the way they planned. So they went for the turnaround. They withdrew that decision of only through personal selling. Then they made the Dell computers available in the normal shop, like electronic shops. That's one of the turnaround strategy. Then again, one more famous, I would say, Tata Nano. Tata Nano I have quoted many times in this entire sessions, the earlier sessions. So again, Nano was one of the famous brand when it was introduced. Later it was found that the demand was less, the sales were less, so they had to withdraw it from the market. So that's again one of the turnaround strategy. Even many like Patanjali products and all, earlier it was available only in that Patanjali stores. So then they withdrew that decision, and now Patanjali products are available in any supermarket, anywhere. So likewise, there are many examples. It was just about the decision what they had made. If it was found wrong, then they are cancelling that out and they are taking a different decision to make it work or make it profitable. That's about turnaround strategy, where they are cutting down or where they are undoing the decision what they had taken before. So why this turnaround strategy may come, or which situation leads to turnaround? First and foremost, continuous losses from that particular segment, or because of that particular decision. If you are having continuous losses, or if the management of that particular decision what they had taken was poor, then the strategy what they had applied earlier, if it was proven wrong later, then persistent negative cash flows from that particular operation, then high employee attrition rate, there is more employee turnover in that particular segment or section, poor quality of functional management, decline in market share. That is in case of Dell and Nano, we can say the market share considerably reduced because of a few reasons. Then they had to withdraw it. Uncompetitive products and services. Suppose if the products and services are uncompetitive, are not as per the expectation of the consumers, then also they may go for this turnaround. Then the next one, divestment strategy. The next strategy under retrenchment is divestment. This is also called as disinvestment. Both are same, divestment or disinvestment. It is exactly opposite of investment. Like, you know what is investment? This is divestment or disinvestment, where you are basically downsizing the scope of the business. Or in simple words, you are just closing that portion of your business, or that segment of your business, or that division of the business, or one of the business unit under your corporate. So just to revive your financial position. So obviously you go for divestment when it is not, when that particular division or the branch or the business unit was not profitable. Okay. So you are basically selling it off, or you are basically liquidating that particular portion. Then that is called as divestment. So what makes the companies to go for divestment? Quite natural when they have continuous negative cash flows, or when there is continuous losses, huge losses from that particular division, so that the other divisions or other business units have to bear the burden of that particular unit's loss. So in such case they may go for divestment. then unable to meet the competition, particular that section of your business where the goods are not competitive enough, they are not able to face the market, there is very less market share. Difficulty in integrating the business within the company. Suppose in your corporate, that particular business or that particular section what you have, you are not able to integrate it within it. So, you have to go for divestment. Then better alternatives, like when you have suppose you are running a loss making division, you are having a section which is not profitable, then instead of keeping that, so better you divest it and use those funds or use that whatever the resources that you have in order to start something which is more profitable. Okay. So, they go for divestment. Then lack of integration between division, lack of technological upgradation due to non-affordability, market share is too small, there are legal pressures to close, maybe because of the policy matter, if you had to close it, then of course you may go for divestment. So, these are the situations which may lead to divestment or disinvestment. So, the recently just to quote an example, I can quote Tata Communication. So, you all know Tata is a big conglomerate, they have so many segments or sections or so many business units under the umbrella of Tata. So, in that they had Tata Communications, which was not competent enough. So, they had to close down that communication, Tata Communication, and divest that and use those resources for the other business units. Then you have the next strategy under divestment, under retrenchment strategy is liquidation strategy. So, the name itself indicates liquidation. This is like a last resort. So, it is most unpleasant strategy in fact by the used by the organization, that includes selling off of its assets and the final closure or winding up of the business operation. So, here you are completely closing the business operation, not just the division or not just one decision or one segment, you are closing down your complete business, you are shutting it down, you are winding it off. Okay. How or why? Basically, you are selling all the assets and realizing the money, and then you are repaying all the debts, and then you are closing your business operation, that is liquidation. So, why does this happen? The most crucial and the last resort to retrenchment, since it involves serious consequences such as sense of failure, loss of future opportunities, spoiled market image, loss of employment for employees. Like of course, it's a what do you call, it has a serious consequence. If any company, usually liquidation happens when it is at the verge of bankruptcy. No profit making business would go for liquidation. Okay. Liquidation happens only when the company is in the verge of bankruptcy, only with the assistance of in the legal language this liquidation process happen. But divestment is quite common. Any business may divest its part of or its a division, or even the first one what we discussed about turnaround, quite natural, quite common. But when it comes to liquidation, it's like the final stage where you're just completely closing it down. So, what are the reasons? Why do the business go for liquidation or winding up? Like failure of corporate strategy. So, in your corporate, you may have the different business units. If this entire corporate strategy or the entire business has collapsed, then obviously you have to close it down. Then continuous losses and there is no hope of it getting better, then you may go for liquidation. Obsolete technology, the technology or the product or goods or services that you are offering, if it is obsolete and you have not made any efforts to revive it or to alter it according to the requirement of the present scenario, then also it may eventually lead to liquidation. Yeah, as I said, outdated product or processes. Then business becoming unprofitable. So, where you are having a lot of overheads and it is burdened with a lot of debts, no chances of repaying without going for liquidation. Then of course poor management or in fact mismanagement of funds. So all those things may lead to liquidation. Then lack of integration between the divisions, like there's no cooperation or coordination, the different divisions are not integrated. So then also in the long run it may lead to liquidation. So recently, especially during this pandemic situation 2020s, many companies, actually I was searching, nearly 283 companies are in the verge of liquidation. Just to name few, we have Esser Steel, which is going for liquidation, then REI Agro Limited, then Rotomac Exports Limited, then Sam Steel Color Limited, then Visa Power Limited, then Diwan Housing Finance Limited. So these are some of the companies, just to quote as an example, who are going for liquidation. Then just to have a quick recap of what we discussed basically. So we are talking about retrenchment, the most the strategy which no company would actually want to adopt. But if the situation is like that, but if the conditions in the economy, in the condition of the corporate becomes like this, then definitely they may have to go for retrenchment. And the economic conditions like recession, depression, downturns may lead to may push the companies to go for a retrenchment strategy. Basically here you are reducing your operation, you are downsizing, you are reducing the scope of your business, or the worst scenario, you are liquidating your business, you are winding it up, the entire corporate affairs. So here just to have a see the slide, retrenchment strategy is adopted when an organization aims at reducing its one or more business operations with a view to cut expenses and reach to a more stable financial position. So then they may go for, if adopting any of the retrenchment strategy, if there is a hope that it may lead to the improvement of the business condition, then they may go for this strategy. So firm can either reconstruct its business operation or discontinue it, so as to revitalize the financial position. So either they have to restructure it, they have to alter its operations, or completely discontinue, that is liquidation. Basically there are three retrenchment strategies which we discussed. First one was turnaround strategy, then divestment or disinvestment, then we have liquidation. In turnaround, what happens? You have taken a decision before, like one particular business decision, but later it was proven that it's not working the way you wanted. Because of that there are losses, or because or the goods or services which you have adopted, or which you are actually into, is not profit making. So you are basically undoing that decision, or you are basically setting yourself back from the decision. Then that is turnaround strategy, you are following turnaround. Then divestment or disinvestment. So this happens basically when you are selling a portion of your business, or a particular business division, or maybe it's a major division, or one business unit in your corporate umbrella which is not profitable, or which is not competent enough, or which is making huge losses, where the burden of it has to be borne by the other business units. So then in that case you cut off that portion, you sell off that portion which is not yielding any profit. Then the last resort, liquidation. Liquidation is the complete winding off or complete closure. After liquidation, the business entity will not be in existence. This happens usually when the company goes to the verge of bankruptcy. So here you are completely liquidating, dissolving all your assets, realizing the assets and repaying the debts. and whatever unsecured debts, or if it is actually a bankrupt company, then all unsecured debtors and all the equity investors might lose their investment. Employees obviously are going to lose their job after the liquidation. Then the liquidation basically happens because of various reasons, like no hope of getting it back, or huge losses, the goods and services are obsolete, the technology is obsolete, and usually, as I said, bankruptcy, where the debts are higher than the assets. So in that case also, the corporate may go for this liquidation strategy. Just to give the examples, I quoted few examples. When it came to turnaround, Dell did its turnaround strategy by changing its marketing, way of its marketing. Then of course Tata Nano, I gave the example, where they also, that particular segment was taken back. Then even Patanjali, I said initially when they came, they were sold only in the Patanjali special shops, not in the other outlets. Now it is available everywhere. Maybe they found that to increase the market share, they have to make the products available everywhere. Then also for the divestment, I gave the example of Tata Communication. So though Tatas are a brand, a well established conglomerate, even they had a segment or section which was Tata Communication, which was not profitable. So then they also had to sell that off. Then when it comes to liquidation, there are a whole lot of companies, especially in this pandemic situation. Nearly 283 companies are in the verge of liquidation. So I read out few of it which are getting closed in the recent scenario. These are some of the references which I have followed. You can go through with them and have a better knowledge about the concept. So hope you have understood. There are few more strategies which are there for the discussion. So in the coming sessions, we would discuss them. So thank you very much. Hope we'll meet in the next session. Thank you.